Welcome to Scoop World Order Sign Stealing Edition. We're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh. Has he coached his final game at Michigan? There's a lot of smoke and a lot of fire at Schembechler Hall. The building is on fire right now with a lot of suspect practices from Connor Stallions, who's now indefinitely unpaid leave, which means he's fired. So we are going to break all of that down. We're going to take your questions, break down a little video, have a bang up show for you guys tonight. And we got Wisconsin on Saturday. So this is going to be a great show. That being said, as always, we appreciate you guys who enjoy this content. Please click like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. You'll get an alert every time we go live, which is about 7 o'clock every night. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Again, you guys are the best. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And also I want to know, what do you think of this? What's going to come? Give me your punitive predictions. Is it going to be a suspension? Is it going to be a firing? Is it going to be sanctions, bowl ban? I want to hear it all in the chat. So type out, you get to be the NCAA, which is normally a toothless, worthless entity. You get to be like a real cop here, and you get to decide the fate. You're the judge, the jury, executioner. Going to bring in my favorite executioner, Mr. Nevada Buck. Nevada, this has been a long, strange trip. How Michigan went from dodging us in 2020 to dominating us back-to-back years, and they were literally at death's door, to now they're like this mega power that they used to be, in like the mid-90s. And it seems like we figured out what changed. But your thoughts on all of the developments today and what else is going on?
Well, first of all, the video that showed, I mean, there's a video out there. I don't know if you have it. I don't know if you have the access to play it. But basically, it shows the guy Stallions sitting right on the shoulder of the defensive coordinator. Ohio State goes to the line, backs off the line to turn back, and they're all looking for the signal. And you see the Michigan guy's eyes immediately go to the sideline, watching the signal. And then immediately Stallions starts screaming pass, and the entire sideline starts indicating pass to the defense. Which, look, this just sets off so many different issues. You've got, obviously the players were in on this because that wasn't some spontaneous, celebration that they just kind of broke into at that point. Mm-hmm. Secondly, this was the first drive of the game. So clearly they had done some advanced, they knew what they were doing, and they had some information and some data that they were drawing from to make that determination. 3, there are rules about what analysts can do in regard to the gameplay, participation in game activity, and that's clearly a violation. 4, imagine how much esteem this guy had to be held in to be sitting right on the ear of the defensive coordinator in the Ohio State-Michigan game. You're in the Ohio State-Michigan game in Columbus, which has got to be one of the most crazy environments. You were blessed to play in those games, to coach in those games. I mean, absolutely insane environments. Can you imagine some rando getting access to the defensive coordinator in that situation and be like, hey, I'm going to be sitting here and I might ask you some questions like, hey, Kirk, what do you think about that guy over there? You'll be like, dude, get out. There's just no way that happens. This guy had to be like the crown jewel code breaker for them to be put in the spot that he was. And I just, like, when I saw that video today, I had a visceral reaction. That was bad. That was bad. And it upset me. And I really feel like there should be something serious. I think this is unprecedented in the history of college football. And I think that the punishment should fit the crime.
Yeah. I mean, it's card counting. It's the stuff that you get your hand broken for in Vegas if you do. It's bad. I mean, this is a systematic thing that this guy figured out he could try to do. And again, I'm shocked that this doesn't happen everywhere all the time, just because of with how good camera phones are now and how good you can zoom. You can tape an entire game. I mean, if you wanted to, you'd look weird doing it at a game, but I mean, there's a lot of little perches. You could be a scout. I mean, there's a million people that have access to clear views of the sideline that could record it for the whole game. And so this guy decided to do it from the stands, which I don't think is an optimal view as opposed to maybe being in the press box or being somewhere else or on the field. But he did it, and he, again, once you have the signals and then you have the game tape and you can splice the signals for each play with the tape, and then you can splice all the plays together. So, like I said, if it's a handoff to the right and you put all the handoffs to the right over here, and you see the same signal consistently, then you say, okay, well, that signal means that that's the play. Then you can figure out what the formation. Usually, there's a signal for the formation and then the play. In our passing game, it's the formation, the protection, and the routes. So, I don't think it's terribly difficult to do. I think that this guy, again, when you're a young coach, a lot of these guys are trying to figure out how to add value to the program, because it's not like you're going to come up with some miracle, beautiful plays that the coaches are going to want you to run or anything. Because when you're an intern, you're basically making coffee. So he figured, he's like, hey, I did, I was in, the armed forces, I figured out ways to be more valuable. And when he came with this thing, they're like, wow, you're really valuable. Wow, you're really good at this. Wow, again, I can imagine when this guy was doing it, he was probably doing it like it was flashcards. He probably get the signals, study them, he has those little notes or whatever that he had on the sideline. And when they're doing look back and stuff, they're showing it. And again, just to show it, and this is credit Adam King, 10 TV. You see the 10 TV logo, Adam King. Thank you so much for this. But you see us, we do our little look back thing right here where CJ, everybody looks to the side to get the play. And he is right over here. That's him. And he's looking at our signaler. And right there, as soon as he gets the signal and he can tell that it's a pass play, everybody points to the sky, which means it's a pass. So it's like the universal sign. So, you see it, and then, this ends up being a pass where they actually score, but, still, you can see this is him. He's right next to the DC. I don't know if the DC is getting the exact play. I doubt it, because he has a double earmuff headphone on. So, when you have these things on, you can't hear anything. So it's not like he's taking the muff off and listening to what the guy's saying. But, this guy's definitely reading Justin Fry. Justin Fry is the primary signaler for the offense. He's reading them. And as soon as he gets that signal, these guys, and so is he. He's got multiple guys reading him. As soon as he gets it, he starts pointing to the sky. He's the first guy to point to the sky. This guy is. And then once he does it, everybody else does it. So it's really interesting, because I'm telling you, man, this is, that video, it's kind of nice that the Columbus media is rallying to help these guys, because that's damning. That's as damning can be, when some random guy is magically pointing like this because he has the signals in the first quarter. Now, you can pick signals legally. You just can't have all the pre-work. Like, you can't go to games. You can't do live scouting. Like, that's what, all high school coaches do that. They'll go to watch another game, in advance. You're allowed to do that in high school. You're not allowed to do that in college. Just frankly, because it would be that would be the ultimate silver bullet for the rich programs like Florida, like Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, because they can afford to send, a coaching staff to go break down a game in person. And that would be a huge edge for them over like MAC schools, so to speak. So they banned that, I believe, in '94. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? That was the video you were talking about. Pretty bad stuff.
That's terrible. Just terrible. And I think, I just, knowing how sidelines operate and knowing just how crazy and chaotic that whole thing is, and just seeing that guy there with that huge, he's got a laminated card of some signals. Now, your theory is that those are Michigan signals. I'm not sure why he would have Michigan signals on that, but you may be right. There's obviously some speculation that those are Ohio State signals. And to me, that would make more sense. But, who the heck knows at this point? All I know is he's buying tickets. He's in proximity he's clearly talking and coordinating to the defensive coordinator. And every player on the team immediately knows. They all know. They all know that this is like, what's going on. So it's just so funny how, they're not even being subtle about it. I just think it's the arrogance of Michigan to think that they could get away with doing this. This guy's buying tickets in his own name and getting reimbursed by Jim Harbaugh's kid, and having his Venmo transactions on public. This was not some incredible caper. This was like the Three Stooges meet the Keystone Cops going out there in terms of doing this. And I, I, I personally think this is going to bring Harbaugh down. I
Yeah.
personally think there is a chance that Jim Harbaugh has coached his final game at Michigan. I think the pressure, and you can feel the pressure building every day now. The media is on this, and there's only going to become more and more stuff coming out. And Michigan, there's lots of things about Michigan, but they fancy themselves to be this blue blood, above it all type of program, and I could see them feeling like the pressure is just too much, and I could feel them moving on Harbaugh if they felt like this was going to blow up and that they were going to try to get ahead of this and mitigate some of the damage. I think Harbaugh might be done.
I agree. I think that it's always it's a balance of how bad is the crime. This is egregiously bad, and then what's the PR hit? Like the Mel Tucker thing on the surface was, he's just being a douche and doing whatever with some crazy chick, but they fired him because it was embarrassing the university. And it also, the thing about Harbaugh that changes everything is he's undefeated and they're good. And they've beaten Ohio State twice. So, I mean, if he was 1-7, he'd already been whacked, 2 days ago. But, winning is a great deodorant. But Michigan, they're in the midst of a season where they could win the national championship. And it's like, do they have the balls to whack Jim Harbaugh? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I know that, I'm sure that there's a huge faction of people at Michigan that want him gone, including the Ward Manuel, who the athletic director, who's not fond of Jim Harbaugh. There's no secret about that. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the season goes and how does Ohio State react to it? Because again, you can mitigate some of the stuff by huddling. Like we saw Penn State huddle a lot this week. Again, I think that the sign stealing is only going to get more prevalent and more sophisticated unless the NCAA comes down with the hammer of God and they strike them down, which I just don't know if they will. But it could be, even if you just know that it's a run or a pass, that is a huge edge, obviously, for the defense. If you know what defense you're getting on offense and you can do look back, that is huge. Again, I've picked signals before. It's not terribly hard to do. And when you get them, it is a huge advantage. So, but I did no pre-work or anything. I mean, you're allowed to literally sit there and do it in game. It's kind of like figure out if there's a tell on the defense or on the offense or on the O-line during the game. That's all legal. You can't do the pre-work. You can't go visit another stadium and video all that. That's where they're going to get smacked. And again, this guy was termed as a recruiting staffer, low-level guy. And, if you watch our recruiting staffers, if you watch Mark Pantoni on game day, he just stands there the whole time. He's not doing anything. He's not interacting with the coaches. He's not, he's clapping for the guys and maybe a high five if they score a touchdown. And that's it, because that's what he's allowed to do. He's not allowed to be out there signaling and, there's only so many countable coaches and GAs. I believe there's 10 countable coaches and there's 4 GAs. So there's 14 guys that are allowed to actually coach during the game day. And then there's guys that are like Devin Jordan and Joe Philbin that are analysts that aren't allowed to coach on game day. So those guys don't even have headsets, which is crazy because I would have gone crazy if I didn't have a headset because they don't, but you see them on the sideline, they have no headset on. So guys like Mike Salini's a GA, he's got a headset on. Justin Fry has one on, excuse me. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think that Michigan's going to go down just because, I think that you have to set the tone with this. This is something that in the age of technology and, really, really good 4K cameras that are really small, it's not really that hard to do anymore. Back in the days when we didn't have camera phones, this would have been really hard to do. You'd have to get a camera in the stadium, video camera. And again, it always makes you go back to that Georgia game when, we played Georgia and we hear a rumor that they found a camera set up pointed at the practice field. And, of course, Georgia denies it and the Sugar Bowl says it's theirs, whatever. But I'm they were pointed right at where our signalers were, so were they trying to get our signals during practice? Because, we signal stuff in during practice. We don't just call everything. We do, if we're moving the field, we do the signals because you got to rehearse those just as much as you have to rehearse the play so that everyone's sharp on those. But your thoughts on this, Nevada? Does this affect Michigan? Obviously they got Penn State coming up. They got us. Do you think that it just rolls off their back? Is it us against the world? Do you think that it just falls by the wayside? Where are you at with this?
No, I think this is going to have far-reaching implications. I mean, I think this could potentially impact the whole adoption of technology, like helmet communication. Um, I think it could have far-reaching implications. But I think for Harbaugh, man, when in 2023, when the wheel of outrage falls on you, and then the weight of the media is focused on you, and it's a
Oh
juicy
man.
story like this,
Oh yeah.
man, you're not getting up, man. You're just not getting up, and he's just not going to be good enough to survive now. But I've just got a question from you from a tactical standpoint. Now, I
Sure.
understand Ryan likes to do the go to the line and then check back and do the things so I can get the perfect call and stuff like that. And so maybe I'm answering my own question, but obviously when I played football back in the days when we didn't have face masks and it was in the 20s, we would messenger plays that guys would run in and call
Yeah.
give the play and
Oh
run
yeah.
out.
We,
I
we
mean,
we did that in high school. We did that in high school. Our split end would bring the play in every single play.
yeah, I mean, isn't that if you want to avoid having your signal stolen, isn't that the best way to avoid having your signal stolen?
I mean, I think it's that or go to wristbands. I mean, if you go to wristbands and change them every quarter, it's hard to pick that because you're probably going to be using like a numerical code that corresponds with the wrist and with the wrist, and then you can switch it. So by the time they pick it, you're going to have something new going on. But I think that I think it's going to be a huddle. It's going to be a wristband. I mean, it's got to be something, but, it would be extremely ballsy of them to figure out how to pick signals now after they've been busted for picking signals. But I think that the things you can do to counter it are huddle. You can do that look back stuff. But the thing about the look back is you could do like a fake look back where, you call the first play and they pick it, and then you call a second play, but it's like a dead play, and you just run the first play. Now, that makes the game go to snail's pace. But or you could just go fast. I mean, there's you go tempo on them. If you go jet like fast, like you can't. They don't have time to look over at your sideline and get it into the defense and call a play. And a lot of times when you go jet, you're going to get base defense because you can't risk a guy not blitzing. In a situation because he didn't get the signal to blitz. So a lot of times when you go fast, you're going to get base defense, which is that's another way to counteract it. But I think the best way to do is just do a short huddle, like do a short huddle and to say, hey, short huddle, wristband, and you got to do what you got to do. Because again, like no matter what, they beat us the last 2 years. They could have stole the signals and whatever. But that's they're not going to take the. Maybe they'll take the Big Ten banners down. Maybe they'll grant us a retrospective win, but I don't think they are. So at the end of the day, like
But here's my thoughts to that. Like, I just think football games always they're 120 plays, 130 plays, but really they're a handful of plays that swing games,
yep.
and knowing what's coming, man, do I think that that's the reason that they beat us the last 2 years? No, we couldn't stop the run, 2 years ago. But man, I just had this, when I put something up on Twitter today, which was kind of interesting, something that I'd kind of gotten from the Las Vegas guys. So we're talking about Las Vegas and their connection to this entire story. And as
Mm-hmm.
it turns out, there's an analytics guy, one of the best analytics guys. I think he's the Moondog. And anybody who's in Vegas, who's a gambler, who's a big gambler, knows who that is and who the analytics firm is. But apparently, they were the first ones to kind of pick up on the betting irregularities with with Michigan, and they went
Mm-hmm.
to the gaming commission, who went to the NCAA, who went to the Big Ten, and that's where this whole thing came from. But when you see it, it's so stark how bad Michigan was, how bad they were against the spread, and how magically good they got as soon as this program got implemented. I mean, it's unlike anything that I've ever seen before, and well, you don't want to be that fan and be like, oh, the reason we lost was this. I really think that's it. I really think that's how did Harbaugh take a bunch, a relatively a decent team, and turn them into world beaters? Well, he cheated, and I think it's really as simple as that. And do I think Harbaugh fits the profile of the type of coach that would cheat? Absolutely, he
Oh
does.
yeah.
He was
Oh,
he was desperate for his job. He had lost Ohio State 5 years in a row. He was being run out. I mean, everything about this this was a desperate guy, and it's clear what happened. And the fact that he was able to profit off it at all, that he was able to prosper off it at all, just enough bad things cannot happen to him and to that program and to that fan base because they're cheaters. They're cheaters, and I personally think they should be banned this year. I personally think the only fair penalty for what other teams have had to go through the last 2 years, at least with this program, is to ban them for participation in this year's playoffs. That's where I think that's the appropriate penalty.
I agree. I think if you shut them down for the year, it's like then that, because again, the only way it's going to stop is you have to hit him so hard that nobody ever wants to do anything like this, attempting that. Because if it's a toothless punishment, then this will still go on. This isn't hard to do. It's bad to do, but it's not hard to do. And then you'll just keep seeing more and more of it. So, but yeah, I think that banning them from the postseason would be great. Starting with the Big Ten championship game would be great. I mean, I think Jim Harbaugh is toast. I just don't know how he survives this. Again, like after I've seen what Pat Fitzgerald got fired for, Mel Tucker got fired for, like I have no idea how Jim Harbaugh still has a job at this point. And again, like you said, once the media horde turns on you and they're bringing the heat, I mean, you've got every investigative journalist in the world trying to find the next nugget of information on this one. And I think that's the golden ticket right now. So people want to see how deep it was. What did Sharon Moore know? What did the D coordinators know? What did the players know? What did, subpoena everything, go get his bank records, go get everything, go look at everything. So who's paying for these tickets?
No, but Kirk, let me just ask you a question. And just again,
sure.
We didn't do this in the pre-show, so this isn't a setup. You have no idea what the question is going to be.
I don't.
Is there any scenario where you believe that Jim Harbaugh wasn't aware of what was going on with this?
Absolutely not. There's no chance. Like, I mean, when I was picking signs, like they knew that I was getting them, and I didn't get them until I had them. Like, it wasn't like I came into the game and known them. I was just trying to figure them out. And when I cracked it, I was like, ooh, we're good. Let's do this. So it's like, there's no way that a recruiting analyst intern, $50,000 dude is sitting next to a coordinator who's making like $2 million. And he's like right in his hip pocket the whole time. And he's right, and I mean, there's just no way. There's no way. And again, like, and I think Jim Harbaugh's the kind of guy that would like love that kind of stuff. He's the kind of guy that would like, hey, I mean, because the pressure to beat Ohio State, the pressure to return Michigan to glory. This is the same school that ran from us in 2020, and when we would have absolutely murdered them, they refused to play us because they had the fake COVID stuff or whatever. And so then all of a sudden, he figures out a way to get a huge leg up. And, I mean, people are greedy, especially when they're desperate. So, I mean, I think that he absolutely knew. There's no way you could not know that. There's no way that the D coordinator wouldn't tell you, the O coordinator wouldn't tell you. Just kind of what it is, it's crazy. Because like I said, this is a sophisticated thing, but it's not very sophisticated in how it was executed. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens because, the one thing about Jim Harbaugh is he does lie about literally everything. So he goes and puts his hand on a Bible and then they find all this other stuff to counteract everything that he lied about, then he's gone. Which, I mean, I think he's gone regardless. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, I just think that with Harbaugh, I mean, Harbaugh's already in the midst of an active NCAA investigation right now. And now they've got this. And, when you put those things together, it gets exponentially worse. And I really don't even think we've scratched the surface on this. I mean, I think the worst is by far is going to yet to come. I think it goes all the way up there. And the documentation on this is so easy and so readily available.
Oh my God.
So
yeah.
You don't have to be like some CSI super sleuth to come up with this.
No.
And so I think even the NCAA can connect the dots. And if the NCAA doesn't move fast enough, I think the big will, because the new big commissioner doesn't play around. And I think he'd like to knock Harbaugh down too. And that's an educated opinion.
Well, and I think the athletic director at Michigan's had enough of him too, Ward Manuel. I think he's tired of Harbaugh. Again, it all makes sense now. It all crystallizes. Like, why was he interviewing for the Minnesota Vikings on signing day, like 2 years ago? why was he interviewing for the Broncos this past year? It's like, Michigan had a great team coming back. They're seemingly on the up and up. It's his alma mater, but it was kind of like he knew that the house of cards was about to fall down soon. And again, sure as can be, here it is. And I mean, this is, again, this will be like the next layers of details, excuse me, will come out. Because when you get these investigative guys like Thamel and they're digging around and they're, and then they start, they start doing the record requests from the University of Michigan, and then they start, they go to, there's trial subpoenas, and they get to, they go and they get all this guy's Venmo records, his bank records, who was paying for it, was it a donor, was it Jim Harbaugh? Like, that's where it's going to get real sticky, because all of a sudden, like, and if Michigan finds that out quick, I mean, you'll see them move fast to get rid of Jim Harbaugh, because I'm telling you, you gotta, you just got to kind of cut it off at the pass for a PR perspective. But then it's going to be interesting, because then what do you do? Do you promote one of the D coordinators or the offensive coordinator who they knew what was going on too? Like, I don't think that's fair. So this will be one of the most fascinating stories to follow over the next month that I think I've ever seen. I mean, this is going to lead right into the Michigan game, up in Ann Arbor.
And you've got J.J. McCarthy right now, who's the betting favorite for the Heisman Trophy. And I am of the opinion that a lot of Heisman voters will not vote for him, being the fact that they're under the scandal of a cheating situation right now. I mean, I think back on the Aaron Rodgers thing, where there were people that were outwardly saying, I'm not going to vote for him because of his vaccination status. Now, regardless of what your position is on vaccination or this and that, what my point is that other things come into play here. And are the Heisman voters really going to put J.J. McCarthy up there as kind of their poster boy when the team? I mean, I think this is the biggest. Well, it is. It's the biggest scandal in college football history. I mean, it's literally. I mean, short of like bribing the referees or some sort of thing like that, this is. I mean, it's the worst thing that I've ever seen, and like the old everybody does it. Everybody, not like this, man. Not like this is. I think the SEC teams are blushing on this one, and that takes some doing.
Well, yeah, because there's just such a lack of sophistication. It's like literally this guy's buying stuff on Ticketmaster. Every single ticket has an electronic paper trail now, because you have to use like Ticketmaster.com to get into the stadiums, transfer the tickets, video records of everything, of the signals, him on the sideline, him with whatever, like, I mean, it's so unsophisticated. Then they're going after the Venmos and looking at all the Venmo transactions, and the guy sold like 80 T-shirts and whatever, and I'm just like, it's stunning, really. And again, like, I always knew like something was up. Like, all of a sudden Michigan got real good, and I was like, eventually, you figure out that when the numbers don't make sense, especially like in Vegas, where the whole world revolves around numbers, it can. I mean, people are going to start stiffing around, and here it came. And thank God for Vegas and our boy Moondog, because Moondog got it in, and he got this whole thing in.
Let me ask you one, and this is an important thing for people to understand. So, like, when you see that thing on the sideline, and say that is Ohio State signals, again, people have to remember, this may be a basic point, but you have to remember, the television broadcast does not show the signals. Nothing shows the signal. They don't record the signals.
Yeah.
So the only way you could have the signals is from, in a laminated form on the first series of the game, is to have been doing pre-scouting and pre-recording, just by definition. So it's like, I mean, that's, if you ever needed a smoking gun, that's it. There's no other way to get them. Like, you can't just sit there and just like, I guess you could just get the signal. No, you can't. The television, you can't find it on any broadcast. You can't find it on the All-22. You can't find it anywhere. But somehow they had it. So it was like magic.
I agree. I'll get to that in a second. Super chat. Appreciate you, Zach. Thank you so much. Nevada, do you think any of this Michigan stuff will be resolved before the playoff for even the Ohio State-Michigan game? I mean, I think it has to be, doesn't it?
Well, here's the thing. It's a question. The only way that you get a fast resolution is if Michigan is the one preempting it and moving.
Yeah.
Because the NCAA and the Big cannot. They just move at a glacial pace. They won't move that fast. But if the pressure builds on Michigan, I think that they're on a bye this week. And
Mhm.
if things just keep cooking and keep building up, and more stuff comes out, and like you said, the AD gets in there and they get a hold of the. I'm sure they're pulling all the stuff from Stallions right now. They know what's kind of what's on the
Yeah.
servers, and they can tie it back to Harbaugh. You might just see press conference calls, bang, Jim Harbaugh's been removed, and they try to get ahead of this thing. So could it happen? I think he's going down on this one. I don't think that there's any way that he's going to survive, and I have a question about the timing. It's more than 0% that he's coached his last game at Michigan. That is for sure.
Yeah, I mean I agree, and again I know that the coordinators had to have known it because again like the DC is not just going to have some recruiting intern standing next to him during the entire game, every game, when he's signaling for his life against a really good Ohio State offense. But getting back to what you said previously, I just think that this is going to be a really quick. I think that Michigan's going to move. I mean, I might be absolutely nuts, but I just think that I mean, this is a gargantuan black eye for their football program right now. Because I mean, the whole sports world is talking about this as these videos keep coming out. Like the 10 TV video came out. Videos, like it's so obvious, it's so coordinated, and like you said, Michigan just got really good all of a sudden. And it makes you wonder, like, did they not have TCU signals, and that's why all of a sudden they got ran when they played them in the or in the playoff game? But yeah, I don't know. Does this affect your thought on the Ohio State Michigan game at this point, Nevada?
Well, I mean, I think that's going to be a heck of a game either way. I mean, I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a close game. I felt that way for a while. I just think this Ohio State team is a team of destiny. I've said that. I said that a couple of weeks ago. I just feel like they're going to find a way to get it done. And whether this is a distraction, whether this is inspiration for Michigan, who the heck knows? The story will be written by the victors, that's for sure. But I think that this Ohio State team's not going to be denied. I love the way that this team's building. I love the way that the season's building, and I think we're going to get it done up in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I do too. I think that this isn't how Michigan. Obviously, if Jim Harbaugh gets fired, everything changes. But I think it's. I can't. He's the thing about him is he's winning. That's the only thing that's keeping him in his job right now, and the fact that he rubs everybody the wrong way up there. A lot of people don't like how he treats everyone. So again, that all adds up. And like I said, this has been the strangest year ever in terms of coaches getting removed. Because if you'd have told me before the season that Mel Tucker and Pat Fitzgerald would both get fired in the middle of the season or before the season, I'd said there's no way, especially Fitzgerald. Because I mean, so like when that PR thing starts spinning out of control, man, like the Northwestern thing did and like the Michigan State thing did, like I think the universities, they've had enough. I lived it with Truss, like when Trussell, when all that Sports Illustrated articles come in, we were waiting for it to drop and hopefully survive the bombardment, and we didn't. Truss ended up getting whacked, and here we were. Urban, same way. He had the stuff with Drake and Zach Smith, and by the end of the season, he's resigning. So, again,
let's talk about that just for a second. So Urban Meyer was basically suspended. It led to his leaving Ohio State over the fact that he should have known what Zach Smith was doing in his personal life with his ex-wife. And it's like, and when you say it out loud, it's just so stupid. And then you got this thing going on right now where you've just got widespread cheating by Michigan. Like, how can Harbaugh survive? How can he coach another game in college football with this? I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. I think he's gone.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think that they gotta move, but then like it's like the thing I said, like, so if they do whack him, who takes the spot? I mean, Sherrone Moore seems like the obvious guy. The offensive coordinator has been fantastic ever since he became the O-line coach, but I mean, he's complicit in it, and the DC is complicit in it. So it's like, what do you do? You know, I mean, it's always funny to me when they fire the head coach, but then the guy that's right there next to him doing the same bad stuff, he gets promoted to be the new head coach. But what are your thoughts on that?
Brady Hoke or Lloyd Carr or Rich Rodriguez or Mark D'Antonio's grandkids. Any of those.
Mark D'Antonio's grandkids that'd be fantastic. Get Dino going in there. Got a super chat. Appreciate you. What's the chest block from going into the pros to coach after starting? He was suspended. I remember that. Am I remembering that right? Why would Harbaugh be able to jump right to the pros? Well, I remember Tress, when he got whacked at Ohio State, he wanted to take a job with the Colts, and he was suspended for like 8 games or 7 games. It was the same as Terrell. Terrell probably had the same, like, he got to the league and got suspended by the god that is Roger Goodell, the god of football. And so Tress was like, I remember he was suspended for however many games because he didn't have to serve his suspension that he received or something like that. It's been like 12 years, kind of a foggy memory. But yeah, I don't know if he was blocked from coaching, but I know he interviewed for the Colts job when he was up there after he worked there for a year. But it'll be weird. Like, I mean, it'd be weird to see if there's some sort of restrictive discipline on Harbaugh. And again, like, the thing is like, is that radiation going to be worth it to an NFL owner? Because you're basically hiring a guy that's gotten accused of Spygate. And Bill Belichick got away with it because he's like the greatest coach of all time, probably because he was spying the whole time. But, like this is something that, if you're an NFL owner, man, you're going to be asking some deep questions. And then plus, you bring this guy in, he's going to have to face media questions and scrutiny and fan scrutiny the second he shows up. So I don't want to be like too over the top. Like, this isn't going to end his career, because if there's one profession where terrible human beings can get 80 million chances, it's coaching football. If you can coach football, they're going to hire you, and they don't care about anything else as long as you can coach ball. Nevada, how does this affect his potential next job if he has one?
Well, like you said, I think NFL owners are, they have short memories about this stuff, and they just want to win. And you see guys, survive scandal, Bobby Petrino, and you can survive just about, just pick a coach,
anything,
Lane Kiffin, and there's just so many. But like, guys it's a careers that they have plenty of second chances, and I think Harbaugh has been desperate to get back to the NFL anyway. So I think for him, this is going to kind of be the thing. And, he'll go and he'll play the fact that he's the aggrieved party, that somehow he's the victim in all of this. Because I think there's going to be that Michigan victimology thing kind of going on. But I think the next 48 hours is going to be really, really interesting, because I'm hearing there's more stuff that's going to drop. And every day it's more and more detailed. And I think the next drop could be the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back and forces the Michigan 80 to make a move. And so I'd be keeping an eye on the news cycle for the next 48 hours, because I think it's going to get pretty crispy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any final thoughts to wrap this thing up? We talked about Michigan enough. We got the Badgers. Are you still feeling good about the Badgers on Saturday?
Look, we're going to beat Wisconsin on Saturday. I think it's going to be a closer game than we'd like, but we're just better. Ryan and Jim Knowles got the boys ready. They immediately went into don't eat the cheese mode on Sunday, and we're really hitting the guys up with staying sharp. So I think we'll be sharp enough. I'd worry. I think offense can be flat, but I think defense is rarely flat, and I think our defense is going to come to play and play at a high level, and good defensive play will keep you in a lot of ball games, and I think that'll be enough to get us by on Saturday.
I totally agree with you. I'm excited for the Bucks. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, thank you so much. I think Jim Harbaugh's done. With that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys being a part of this show. If you enjoy this, please click like as you leave. Click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Give us an alert, and you'll get every time we get to go about 7 o'clock. Every night we're rolling, so we appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed this, also, why don't you leave us a comment? What do you think Jim Harbaugh's punishment will be? I'd like to know. I think he's going to get fired, but I'd like to know what you guys are thinking and what will happen to the program. I'd also like to hear that. So Leave that down in the comments. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Appreciate all of our Michigan friends bombarding this place. I see you guys fighting in the chats. That is fantastic. I love it. The spirit is here. We're about a month out. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Down with Michigan. Time to go beat Wisconsin. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.